Hey, YouTube, Mark here with Greg for another All Things Video Games. Today's topic happens to be on the Switch with various rumors that, everyone's been talking about it, but we kind of wanted to piece some of them together and then also go over some documents that were leaked recently and compare them to Google's, or not Google, but NVIDIA's tablet. And also Sony's patent that recently leaked too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. So basically, the specs that were leaked out pretty much confirm that the Shield or the Switch is using the almost exact processor to that of the Shield. Now, I know somebody took one of those when the Switches were those bunch were stolen.
Yeah.
Somebody had opened one up and had pictures online. So they managed to do that before getting arrested or whatever. But anyway, basically they were able to confirm that the Switch does have a custom Tegra chip. But based on the leaked documents, I don't know what part is custom necessarily. And I'm not really concerned about that. I think the most important takeaway here is that it points out the documentation says that there's 4 cores, but 3 available to developers.
Yep.
4 gigs of RAM, 3 available to developers.
A little bit more than 3, but
yeah, basically
it's I don't know. That's better than the Wii U, I suppose.
I guess. And then I wanted to point out, even though this isn't necessarily a good thing either, but the documentation does state that the Switch video output is 4K 60 FPS capable, but it is limited to 1080p 60, and I think that's for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's
but
I don't know. They might actually, depending on their HDMI, because I don't know if that's in here. But they might open it up later. Who knows?
Well, it's probably HDMI 2 or whatever newer version. So
I'd hope.
It'd be technically capable. Just like I wanted to point out, this is exactly what the Shield console essentially is too. So it's kind of interesting because, yeah, the Shield console has 4 cores, has 4 gigs of RAM, and it outputs 4K video. So it doesn't play games at 4K, I don't believe. I think it's just for streaming only, but still, it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Shield tablet, which I believe is the same dimensions.
No, it's bigger.
It's an 8-inch.
Yeah.
Actually, even the display's better, but it's using an older chip and only 2 gigs of RAM there.
Yep.
But I don't know. In some cases, I think Nintendo's smart going with 720p because that the X1 actually at 720p it's a beast.
Yeah.
However, when you're putting it on TV, it's going to be outputting at 1080. So I'm kind of wondering if it's native 1080 or if it's native 720 and being upscaled.
Well, I think that's why the dock has other components, like cooling components or whatever it has, because I think that's what it does, is just ups the clock when it's docked, because it has that constant power flow and all that, so it doesn't have to worry about battery life when it's docked.
Yeah, well,
because I know it runs slower when it's undocked. There's been a
definitely.
lot of that going around.
That's kind of poopy in my opinion, but
hey, I don't think it's gonna matter. I've been down this road many times. Tell you what, if the viewers watched you and Mike talk about this, that'd be a whole different conversation, because
he is definitely, he's on a super negative Nintendo rant kind of thing.
Yeah, unfortunately for him.
But I'm I want the Switch to succeed. I want it to be, as far as sales numbers go, I'd love it to be like the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
But I want the games to be better. I don't want to see that shovelware garbage on there. I want to see awesome games that everybody wants to go and buy, and Nintendo to be dominating essentially a new category of systems that they started.
Right. And that's actually a good segue because there's also been a lot of news, or not news stories, but articles going around the web about how the Switch has no competition. And I wanted to talk about that on this podcast because I thought it'd be interesting because there's a lot of ways in which that's true, but there's also a lot of ways in which it's not. So yeah. We'll debate this a little bit. I'm not 100% either way myself. I kind of think that the articles are right, but then they're also wrong. They do make a lot of good points, though. So,
well, I could tell you this. I think they do have competition in the handheld space, and essentially that's with the 3DS.
You know what? I would have said that prior to the Switch being revealed, but it's catering to a different audience. And you can see that in all their advertising. It's always adults using the thing. It's never, ever, ever, ever kids. It's always adults. And I think the 3DS and even the 2DS, to maybe even a greater extent in some cases, they cater to a different crowd, a younger crowd, because for parents, they look at those systems as safer bets, I think, than even tablets or something. Because tablets, smartphones, all that stuff is notorious for having cracked screens and being dropped and broken, beyond
Plus,
repair.
2 years later or so, it's obsolete already.
Extremely obsolete, and it doesn't receive any more support. Whereas dedicated game systems, Nintendo's especially, they don't hardly break.
No, definitely not.
I think we've all seen that story going around the internet from a couple of years ago where dude's original Game Boy was part of an attack in Iraq or something, or Afghanistan, and it was blown to shit, but they put a cartridge in it, turned it on, it ran, it played. The casing and the shell was all melted and it just looked terrible. But it ran. It still worked after all that. And that's kind of the way Nintendo stuff is. It doesn't break. It goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and I remember the original Game Boy, even the Pocket, and the Game Boy Color. You drop them things and nothing would happen. I mean, you might get a little ding up on the plastic, but that thing was like a tank.
The thing is that whole build quality stuck through the Game Boy Advance era and the DS era. It did, but it had the one flaw that I think some parents learned about the hard way, and that was the hinge, the fact that it had to open. And needless to say, kids broke it in half. And, that's what happens with kids, but Nintendo's response was a 2DS, which not only gave parents a way to get their kid one of these things that's super durable and doesn't break, but it's even more durable, and it's half the price of the 3DS, and that also gives people who wanted to get in on 3DS
at least the games,
an entryway for cheap. So I don't think that the Switch is that same crowd because the Switch is a tablet. I'm sure it will have the same build quality as all their other stuff. Though I am a little concerned about the screen. Any device with a big screen, I always kind of worry. The Wii U avoided it, but its screen was also lesser quality, so it's hard to say. But I think it's a different market, and I think that the 3DS sales are down enough that it's not going to really compete. You're not going to get Breath of the Wild on 3DS ever.
I certainly hope not.
There's just no way in hell it's gonna work. And same thing with like Skyrim. You're not gonna get Skyrim on there. Now I know a lot of us aren't gonna necessarily buy Skyrim on Switch, but my point is that you're not gonna see Skyrim running on 3DS. Like,
I honestly think I would buy it.
Not me. I bought it 2 or 3 times already. I'm good.
I think it'd be good for like when you're on the plane or something. Well, you don't travel that much, but
Nope.
I just, especially like long trips, like the one I just got back from. I mean, granted, the battery life's not the greatest, but if you can plug in, I mean, that's a good game to waste a lot of hours on while you're on a plane or at the airport, or
Yeah.
whether it's a bus trip or train ride, who knows what it might be.
If you haven't played a ton of Skyrim somehow yet, that's going to be a great game for you. Or if there's a substantial amount of stuff you haven't done in Skyrim yet, it's still going to be a great purchase.
In fact, I haven't completed the game.
Completed?
Yeah, completed. Well, I know you can keep going after the stories.
I mean, that's just it. There's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, now I killed 2 dragons and whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that'd be a great game on there.
That's one of those games where, like, yeah, it's a port of an old game now, but boy, that's going to drive the point home of what the Switch can do for you that the others can't. And that's why I think that these articles, that's one of the first things they mention. You're not going to play an Xbox One or PS4 portably. You're just not.
No. Although I might argue a little bit, although this is more like...
I think I know where you're going. I don't...
Yeah. If Sony would have done it differently, the Vita would have been that, you could play essentially PS4 games on the go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, technically, in some cases, as long as you have high-speed internet, and by that I mean like 100 megabits or faster, you can remotely.
Yeah.
But if you don't have good internet, like mine's only 45 meg, it doesn't work. I mean,
and
it's pretty shitty.
And it has to be good on both sides. So,
Yes,
like, your
no,
PS4
that's
could be
my
sitting in Florida, and then you go visit Michigan. But if the internet's awesome at home, but not where you are in Michigan, then
Yeah.
it's not going to work. And I know what you're saying there, though. It could have been something more, but it's too reliant on outside influences.
No, I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. So, I mean, the Switch definitely is in a category of its own, in my opinion, where, yeah, it's a home console. If that's all you want it to be, then fine, that's what it is. And if the same goes with the portable. If that's all it is to you is a portable, then that's fine. In fact, I have some friends, that's what they're buying it as. They're buying it to replace their 3DS, essentially. And I'm like, I'd be hooking up the docking station to the TV and everything, and I'd be using it as both while it's, intended to be.
And the cool thing, too, is you can take that dock with you wherever you go. It's not like it's a big, bulky thing.
It's pretty small, yeah.
So, like, you could take it with you on trips and then just hook it up in the hotel or whatever, and you're good to go. Wouldn't be hard to do.
Yeah.
But, I can see how people would use that as an argument, because you can't do that with the other consoles, not by a long shot.
No.
So
could you imagine, let's just say Battlefield 1, or I don't think the latest Call of Duty is doing all that well.
Oh.
But if those games made it on the Switch and looked maybe not as good as PS4 or Xbox, but decent, especially on the small screen, it's going to look really, really good. I think, man, that could work out so well.
See, I'm willing to bet that a lot of people, they aren't going to care about visuals so much with the Switch because of the fact that they can take it with them. I think that, like right now, okay, some of us have had a PS4 for a while, and the Pro comes out. We know it looks better on the Pro. Everything runs better on the Pro, whatever. But we're content enough with what we have. And I think that's going to be kind of the case here, where like you have a Switch and you get Call of Duty. Sure, it doesn't look as good as it does on a Pro or a Scorpio, or even an Xbox One. But the fact that you can take it with you anywhere you go and play it, it's like that is a game changer in a lot of ways. Like, you cannot do that with those two. So the fact they look better may kind of be zeroed out a bit, because all of a sudden, you have this other element where you can now play that outside of your home, outside of your living room. So, I don't know. I think a lot of people aren't going to care so much about graphics.
Plus, I mean, one of the benefits, too, is I know the Wii U did this, but this actually, I think, does it better. If you only have one TV in your house, for whatever reason, and of course you have a wife and kids or something, and hey, we got our shows to watch, and you're busy playing whatever game, you just go ahead and pick it up and then go wherever. I mean, that's awesome, and it's uninterrupted too.
Yeah, and the Wii U did that pretty phenomenally, except for it wasn't entirely portable. Like, you couldn't leave the house and play.
In fact, in my apartment here, the way it's laid out, like, my game room is on the completely opposite end of the where the bedrooms are. So, like, I go into the living room and it loses signal.
Oh, really?
So this is actually far better, because the guts are in the machine, in the gut, or in the controller.
Yep. I think that's going to be a big thing, and I've kind of noticed from developers since the Switch went on pre-order that some developers have kind of changed their tune. Like,
a little bit.
It's been interesting, because I remember before the big reveal, can't remember the dude's name, Japanese guy he was the director behind Resident Evil 7. He was asked, like, will Resident Evil 7 find its way to the Switch? And he's like, oh, we couldn't get it to run on there. We love the idea of the Switch and look forward to making something for it, but we just don't think Resident Evil 7 will work. Now it's been just weeks later, and a Capcom representative has said that they are investigating the possibility of bringing Resident Evil 7 to the Switch. It's like the pre-order numbers alone are making these companies think like, maybe we can do it. And that gives me a lot of hope, because like that tells us that that hardware is more powerful than people want to give it credit for, and that companies are willing to bend to make things work if there's a market.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, to top that off, the development kits, they're what, $400?
Yep.
That's actually, what's that, about $100 more than the retail unit? That's not bad.
Yeah, like $434 or something, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was right around the $400 mark, and even so, that's not bad.
No.
Xbox One, to be fair, is a similar situation, since the console can work as a dev kit.
Yeah.
But in contrast, the PS4 is a totally different beast in that regard, which is a shame on Sony's end, but it definitely gives an advantage to the Switch and Xbox One.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then I do know, like, a lot of the developers are kind of in their thinking about it stage, because Unity and Unreal Engine 4.
Yep.
Essentially, I know with Unreal Engine, the latest build has beta support for the Switch.
Yep.
And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is that has been pointed out numerous times, is that all of the engine's features are available.
Yeah,
And
and that's you could essentially say that's because of NVIDIA right there.
yeah, and that says a lot though about the hardware. It's not skimpy hardware, and I think a lot of people think it's just barely better than the Wii U or 360, but it's really not. It's a good bump, well beyond those. It just doesn't happen to be as far as Xbox One even.
Yeah,
So.
it depends on how you look at it too. I mean, with the current systems out on the market, like we'll just say the one and the original PS4, with like the computing power,
Mm-hmm.
they're actually less than the previous generation, well, PS2. However, they have the technologies that push it further. Like you can do more with less.
Mm-hmm.
And the Switch essentially is the same way.
Yeah.
They only do about a teraflop, which that's not a whole lot. However, in a handheld, I mean, since it can be a handheld, that's an enormous amount right there.
It is. It's far more than you get out of your typical tablet or smartphone.
Yeah. And if you think about this too, if you're buying the Switch as a dedicated handheld unit,
mm-hmm.
it's hundreds, if not thousands, times faster and more powerful than a 3DS is.
Yeah, you could almost say that about the Vita, even. Like it's leaps and bounds beyond that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's been a number of developers just praising the ease of use when making their games for the system too. Nakalis, I believe that's how you pronounce it. They're bringing a number of games over to the Switch, like Binding of Isaac, that racing game Redout. I think they have a couple others. They said they have many projects coming to the Switch, but they've called it a dream to develop for. They got I want to say it was Binding of Isaac Rebirth. It could have been something else. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But they said that they got it up and running on the Switch within a week. Like, it was good to go.
That's kind of like how the developers are when Apple releases their new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got this done in a couple days.
Yep. And when you can do that, that says a lot. And not only that, I think the fact that they're using NVIDIA tech in this thing, which is what most PCs are using right now, like it or not, that's the case. I think that makes it a lot easier on developers too, because they know that chipset, they know Maxwell GPUs,
and the tools.
The tools, yeah. So there's a lot of good in this respect. Now moving on, I also think that it's worth pointing out that this is the only system that comes with 2 controllers on the market right now.
Well, I personally think, I'm going to call them half controllers.
But despite the size, they are full controllers. They have an analog stick, 4 face buttons, and 2 bumpers on the top.
Okay.
So, and you might have missed it since you didn't get to see the whole reveal or nothing, but there's I can't remember what they call them. Joy-Con something or others. They actually slide over top when you.
I did see those
to make it a little more form-fitting, and it makes the buttons more pressable on top. So these are legitimately 2 controllers. Like, they're small controllers, but they have most of the buttons you would need for just about any game, aside from the second analog stick or second set of top buttons. But like, none of the other systems can say that they got 2 controllers in the box for you. That's
that hasn't happened since like the NES.
Super NES. Super NES okay. Specifically. Aside from the one bundle, I guess, with the N64, came with the Atomic Purple controller. But even then, I don't know. Maybe it just came with that controller. I could have sworn it came with that and a gray one. But
I think that's what it was.
But whatever the case, yeah, that has not been a thing for so long. It's crazy.
Well, there's been a lot of talk that this is going to bring multiplayer back into the living room, or maybe not necessarily the living room, but
anywhere.
yeah, but it's
That's
like face-to-face multiplayer is going to be making a
yeah, that's
comeback.
what 1-2-Switch. 1-2-Switch is literally face-to-face multiplayer. Like, I watched a video that I believe it is Engadget posted today, where one of their editors got to play 1-2-Switch for the first time, and needless to say, he said that he had his Switch pre-order after the presentation, but he wasn't sure if he was going to keep it or not. But he said after playing 1-2-Switch in that video that he's absolutely going to keep that pre-order. And
Well,
he said that's not the number one reason, but he said it's one of those things where he experienced something that he never experienced before, and that's what makes him excited for the Switch. Because it's funny because 1-2-Switch doesn't even use you don't really look at the screen at all or the TV. You don't really look at that. You look at each other and use the controllers. It's almost like a board game style thing, but like motion controlled.
you think your wife will play with you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure she will. We played a lot of Nintendo Land together, so I'm sure she'll play that. But and I've considered canceling that game on my pre-order list because I know it's something that I'm not gonna play that much. Like to
Yeah,
show
you
it,
could probably get it later, and
well, to show off the system. That's pretty much all I really use it for. But then again, it's like the things like the HD rumble and the new fancy IR sensor and motion controls and all that stuff's going to be most prevalent and easy to see, I guess would be the way to put it, in that game. Like initially. There's not going to be anything else immediately that shows off any of the system's unique features besides that. And I have no doubt that it's going to be a fun game and a good game. I just don't think it's going to have legs. So
yeah, I'm not so sure yet either. I mean, I've seen some videos from it. I haven't checked out that article yet, but I still don't know if it's a game that I would get right away. It might be like a Black Friday type game for me.
you know,
I'm sure it'll go on sale for Black Friday.
a lot of people when they saw the presentation and they saw that, I think most people thought, why isn't Nintendo packing this game in with a system? Because it seemed very Wii Sports like, where something everybody could play and
But
good
see,
way to
that's
show off the
that's
system.
that's the thing is when the Wii was selling and Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort was packed in, that's why people bought the system, but they didn't buy any other games.
Exactly. And that's the point I was going to make, actually, is that I think them not including it is on purpose. Like I've said this before. I think that they are not including it so that if you want it, you can buy it. And
Yeah.
if people go out of their way to buy that product, then they'll make more products like it. Whereas with the Wii, they had no way of gauging what people were buying the Wii for, which, I mean, is pretty obvious, but when you look at it like your number one selling game is Wii Sports, but it comes with every single system.
Yeah.
Then third-party developers are led to believe that that's what everybody wants. That's what everybody bought it for. Even though there are some of us out there who bought it for like Zelda or Mario Kart. And not Wii Sports. But the thing is, that's how we ended up getting all that shovelware. Because all these miscellaneous developers out there were like, hey, we can make a Wii Sports knockoff too. And then we ended
And
up
they
with
did.
like tons and tons and tons and tons of minigame nonsense that didn't even work well, and it's just insane. And I think that this is a good way of, like, hopefully leapfrogging that whole problem by making you go out and buy it separately, so that they can actually gauge
yeah,
whether
they'll
or
be
not
able
you
to check
want
the sales numbers and
right,
see what happens.
right, and that. I do kind of wish they had a game packed in or a demo or something, some kind of demo, some way
I think a demo disc would have been a good idea.
something like that.
I mean, even if it was let's say, one track of Mario Kart, and maybe let's say the first level of the new Mario game.
Mm-hmm.
All these games coming out later in the year include just like snippets that you can play and check it out.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when you'd buy like the Xbox magazine or the Dreamcast magazine, they'd have demo discs in there. That
Mm-hmm.
got you excited,
That was awesome.
for the games coming out. They don't do that anymore. I mean, hell,
Not
you
really
can't even get
magazines.
very many demos to begin with.
No, that's something I realized. I think the other day, actually, I was on my Xbox One and figured I'd look for some demos of some games I was somewhat interested in.
Yeah,
And
not too
it's like,
many.
man, there's not many demos at
It's a
all.
ghost town. I
It
mean, you
is.
can get the Forza Horizon 3,
Yeah.
because I have that one, and you can get Forza 6 demo.
Hmm.
Um, there's maybe a couple other games, but unless you're early enough to get in on some of the betas, there really isn't any demos of anything anymore.
That's a shame. Nintendo's been kind of the same way with their demos, but I'm hoping they'll have something on the eShop. The eShop's a big mystery right now. There's gonna be
Yeah,
something there on launch day,
I am
but
glad that they're tying the account,
to the
like the purchases,
purchases,
to your account. That makes me happy. I just kind of hope that they can kind of retroactive like your previous purchases
yeah,
somehow.
I'm curious about that as well because I obviously bought a lot of stuff on the Wii
Yeah,
and Wii U. Um, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't even care if they were like, "Do you want to transfer all your Wii downloads to this account?" And then it'd be locked to
the
that
account.
account, which means I wouldn't necessarily be able to re-download them on the Wii. But it's like, whatever. I would do it in a heartbeat just to have them. I kind of think that they're gonna do a similar thing like they did with the Wii U, where they charge you a small fee to upgrade, and I will probably take the same stance as I did with the Wii U upgrade because, well, it's like, okay, when you got the game on the Wii U, it output at 1080p or 720, whatever you were playing at, whatever your screen was. So it was in HD, which I know it doesn't make a big difference, but let's be real for a minute, 480p or anything less doesn't really scale nice on a modern TV.
No,
Period.
not at all.
Even less so on like a 4K TV. So, it's like, okay, you got that, but then they threw in the option to customize the controls and have save states, and it's like, okay, so that extra dollar that I'm paying to transfer my game over, I'm getting save states, customizable controls, and HD output for the visuals. That, to me, that was enough. That was like, okay, it could be better, but okay, at least they're giving me something more than just a straight transfer over. Whereas you look at something like Microsoft's backwards compatibility,
Yeah.
and yeah, I know some games get a performance boost, but it's like nothing new is happening with those games. It's just like the same game, just moved on to your new system, which is nice, but and for free, that's what it should be, at least that. Whereas Nintendo is doing something different, and with the Switch, they're adding online multiplayer to the old games. To me,
Oh,
that alone will make me repay for like Street Fighter 2 or whatever the hell games I
I
have
wonder how
on there.
that's gonna work.
It's the same way it's worked in emulation for years. I'm
Well, I never
sure.
played online in emulation, so I wouldn't know.
It's been there. It's been fully functioning for, I don't know, since 17 years ago or so.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, now having it official, that's pretty cool. Just imagine like something like Streets of Rage. Now you'll be able to
Oh,
finally
see,
play
now
that
that would be
multiplayer.
great.
It's
With what? It'd be four of you playing. That'd be
Is
fantastic.
that 4 or is it 3? I thought Streets of Rage was 3.
Maybe I'm thinking. I think the third. No, it is four. You got Axel, I don't know about the first game. I played it once and I thought it was shitty.
Second game's the
Second game was
best.
fantastic. I play that all the time. The third one is all right.
Mm-hmm.
But so let's see, Axel, and I don't remember all the other ones, but you had the kid on the rollerblades, you had that really big muscular dude, and then you had the chick. So there's
Yeah.
four.
So either way, I mean, to me, if they do nothing else with these games, but let me play online for multiplayer, that's enough. I'll pay an extra dollar or two for each of them. And if they follow the Wii U scheming, that means that okay. To explain, because I'm sure you haven't bought anything on the eShop yet, and you probably didn't have anything to transfer over, right?
No, on the original Wii, I have a lot of NES games that I bought.
Okay. So those games, if you went on the eShop and they were for sale there, if you did the whole Wii transfer anyway, they would be available for $1. You could upgrade them for $1. Now, SNES was $1.50 and 64 was $10 or $2, not $10.
It better not be $10.
So, and if you remember though, when you first bought those games, NES games were $5, SNES was $8, and N64 was $10, barring a few exceptions like imports and rarities and stuff like that. Those tend to be a little different in price. But the cool thing with the Wii U was say I didn't have Paper Mario on the original Wii, so I didn't have the option to upgrade it on the Wii U for $2. Well, you would be able to buy that for just the $10 and still get all those Wii U features. They didn't charge you like $12 all of a sudden because I had these other features. It's still $10 on Wii U, $10 on Wii, but you got the extra stuff. You see what I'm saying? Like they didn't go and charge you if you didn't already purchase it. It was just like a little fee to upgrade your current purchase to that. So better than rebuying the whole damn game. Still not perfect, but you know, if they give me new features, I'm okay with it. Is the bottom line.
Well, the multiplayer thing sounds awesome.
That is awesome, and if that's the only thing they do, I'm sold. And the whole rumor with them having GameCube Virtual Console, it's like, man, adding multiplayer, online multiplayer to that, holy shit, that'd be so cool. So many games could benefit from it.
Well, was that Rogue Squadron 3?
Yeah.
They introduced multiplayer for that, right? I'm trying to remember. I don't have that one, but I know it came with the second one, and that also had the multiplayer in it. I think that's a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
But I
Either
could
way.
like just think about it. If it upscales the GameCube to the 1080p and it's progressive and it's like super clean, oh my god, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, just from emulating GameCube stuff, it looks fantastic at HD resolution.
I've played the Zelda game. What's that one?
Which one?
Twilight Princess, is it?
Okay.
Yeah. In emulation, like I turned everything up full, max. I only have a 1920 by 1200 screen, so I set it to that, and man, it just looks so good. It's crazy.
F-Zero GX is one of my favorite go-tos because that game, like, Jesus, they don't need to do a damn thing to modify the graphics or nothing. All they need to do is put it in 1080p.
Yeah.
With maybe a little bit of anti-aliasing, maybe, but other than that, it's such a good-looking game. Like, Sega knocked it out of the park with that one. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. So, okay, so if they just charge a fee for that, that's cool. I want to know, though, if my games are going to transfer, which we already said. I kind of hope so, because they did ask me to set up and link a My Nintendo account to my account on Wii U. I don't know if that's going to result in anything, but I'm hoping. So anyway, another thing I thought we should mention is how awesome 2017 is going to be for a launch year for the Switch. It's like fully loaded. as far as Nintendo's own content's concerned.
Well, I'm interested, obviously, Zelda, but since I'm waiting a few months to get the Switch, I'll be getting Zelda on the Wii U. So I'll probably replay it on the Switch just to see the differences. Mario Kart, I don't have that yet for the Wii U, so definitely would pick that up. If I were getting it if I was getting the Switch day one, and I know Mario Kart's coming out later, but it'd be as soon as that comes out, I'd pick it up. And actually, believe it or not, last week, I think I played Xenoblade Chronicles, or what, Chronicles X, for like probably 3 hours. So Xenoblade 2 in the fall is definitely on my radar.
Well, when I was putting together our notes today, it's like, okay, it's launching with Zelda, which is among the biggest franchises Nintendo has, if not the biggest. And then in the spring, which I believe right now it's actually slated for April, is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Then sometime in the summer is Splatoon 2, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Xenoblade 2 in the fall, and then Mario Odyssey for the holiday. It's like this first year is just dynamite.
And if people are getting their Switch around Christmas time, they're huge palette of games to choose from.
Just from Nintendo, and that, like, never mind the indies and the third parties that are going to have...
Now, I am kind of disappointed in some of the third parties, like EA, for example.
Right.
At least for the launch. I mean, who gives a shit about soccer? I mean, I know
that's not even launch.
I know there are some people that play that, but I know the sales are not that good as far as here in the States when you compare it to like Europe or even maybe Japan.
Well, it's still a top seller.
I don't know. I mean,
working in video game retail, I can tell you that a crazy amount of people come in for FIFA. It's just like,
apparently
I don't
Farming
know.
Simulator.
And that, which is also coming to the Switch, so stay tuned.
Is it really?
Everybody. Yeah.
Is it?
Sure is. Gotta manage your farm gotta manage your farm from your tractor, people, so you can't stop working just to play a Switch.
Yeah, but the Switch is portable, so...
That's what I'm saying. Just take it in your tractor while you're plowing the field or whatever.
A lot of those new tractors have, like, computer-guided cruise control or something, so that you don't even have to really do anything. So anyway, let's see.
On the FIFA note, I gotta mention this because I don't think we mentioned it since our original discussion on this. Now, originally, there's a lot of stories saying that FIFA was going to be a port of the 360 PS3 version. EA has come out multiple times since and said that is not the case, and that this is a custom build for the Switch. It's not relying on those older ones.
Not that I'm going to buy that game, but I'm hoping that it is custom because I know that with all their sports games, they use the same engine, I believe. So in the fall, when Madden comes out,
right?
Not that I don't really play that either, but I got friends that do, and I'm hoping the Switch. I'm hoping the Switch. It's the same game. I don't want it to be like, I don't know. Let's say Rage. Only because that's what I'm thinking about. On the PS3 and 360, when that came out, they had brought out a version to the iPhone, but it wasn't Rage at all. I mean, So I don't want the like mini versions of a game to be on the Switch. I want the full thing.
Right, and I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. I hope the same thing. I hope the developers put their best foot forward because it's kind of like what's the analogy everybody uses? Chicken and the egg. Like,
which came first?
Like you absolutely have to put everything out that you can right away. Like if EA went and did a half-assed port of FIFA that didn't have the same features as the other versions. And then it sold poorly, and then they're like, oh, well, nobody wants FIFA on the Switch, so we're not going to make it anymore. That's a dumbass idea. That's dumbass thinking, because, like, that's not a good indication when you make a half-ass product for that audience. Why the hell would they want to buy your half-ass product in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
And I could say the same about, like, Ubisoft, too. Like, them bringing Rayman Legends Deluxe, or whatever the fuck they're calling it, like, why? Why not just make a new one? Or why not divert those resources to something like Beyond Good and Evil 2, which a lot of fans are eagerly anticipating? You know, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Or I would even say, like, just port, like, a collection of Assassin's Creed games to the Switch.
Heck yeah.
Seriously, just give us the last 3. Give us, like, Unity, Syndicate, and Rogue, I guess, would be the other one.
And that's the thing. Rogue never made it to Xbox One or PS4.
No.
That would be cool if they brought it to that. You know, it'd be a little bit higher resolution graphics and.
Yeah. Or, you know,
but with that being said, I'd also want Assassin's Creed 4 on there, because they're essentially the same. They use a lot of the same assets.
Or the thing is, though, or better yet, you know, just bypass all the ports. Only focus on original content. Like, take this year's version of Assassin's Creed, get that shit running.
Well, they may actually. You never know.
They may. And I'm swearing a lot, so I'm going to try to cut that back. But
fuck that.
Sorry, kids. Sorry, parents.
No, this is an adult show.
Yeah. I mean, for all 5 people watching, I'm sure we're all adults here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to see the developers put their best foot forward, instead of kind of like half-assing it and then being like, oh, well, people that buy Switch don't want our game. It's like,
well, let me ask you this. What games would you like to see come on the Switch that have not been announced?
Well, that's hard to say, because that's just like making stuff up in my head. Dream stuff. Honestly, I'm not going to name specific stuff. I guess I would say, like, I want, and this is just me, maybe people will disagree with this, but I want to see a lot of indie support from Nintendo. Like, Nicalis, I noticed when I went to their Twitter page, there's a lot of people that hate that publisher. I've never even heard of them really until recently. But apparently they mess up stuff a lot. But the fact that they're bringing an indie title, Red Out, which is like an F-Zero style, Wipeout style game, to the Switch in physical form, I believe, that's awesome. Like, give me that. Like, I want these publishers to look at these indies that have real high quality stuff and say, hey, let's put that on the shelf, because that's awesome and it needs some attention. I want Nintendo to see it and Nintendo to promote it in their ads. Like, it's fine to show me Zelda or Mario or whatever in a Switch ad, but instead of throwing in the usual crap like Just Dance and Madden and shit that it's going to sell regardless, put in other stuff that visually is going to catch somebody's attention. Put in like Fast RMX, the game from the Fast Racing Neo guys. Put that in there, because that is visually appealing and awesome if it's anything like the original. Put like if the guy from that made Axiom Verge makes something exclusive to the Switch, Nintendo and the other big publishers, they need to look at that and say, look, we want to put your game on the shelf on one of these game cards.
I think
promote the hell out of it.
That should definitely happen.
Because we always see Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Madden. We see all those advertised all the time. It's not anything new. And
it's getting a little old seeing it every month.
Yeah, and the thing is like, nobody knows about these indie games, and there's so many awesome ones. I just downloaded a game, actually downloaded a while ago, but I finally played it last week or so, called A Ghost of a Tale. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Exactly. Now, here's the funny thing. It's got to be one of the best damn looking games I've ever seen. Period. and it's basically kind of a Zelda-style stealth game about a mouse trying to find his wife or whatever. But it's like super dark and realistic looking. It used the Unreal Engine 4. The requirements for it are stupid low. Like, my machine's capable, but like it defaulted to the ultra settings when I started the game, and it looks so good, and it's made by a small team. And it's like that. Nobody's heard of that, but it's awesome. And then there's like there's these other ones. Like, I just downloaded a game, visually impressive, but not necessarily in the ways that you might. Not in every single way, I'll just say. It's Aquamoto Utopia or something like that.
I've never heard of that either.
Well, guess what? It's Wave Race in HD.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's super good. They have a lot of depth to it. The tracks are challenging as hell. There's a trick system. What about Riptide GP?
I've played that. I got it on my phone.
I have it on my phone too, but that's also on like Steam and stuff. And that's from the guys that made Hydro Thunder Hurricane. And it shows. The game plays exactly like that, except for with jet skis. So, I want Nintendo to focus on those games.
Before you go further here, I'm taking a look at this Ghost of a Tale.
Mm-hmm.
And man, does that look fantastic.
And those screenshots are the real deal, man.
There's a vegetation bend behavior test. Now, this is more for like the artists, like me, that you're seeing this, and you're like, yeah, this is good. This is nice. Oh, this ain't running in Unreal Engine either. This is running in Unity.
It was Unreal Engine, but...
Well, maybe this is the sequel they're working on, but it says right here that the game is running on Unity.
I did see that in an update, so I don't know. Whatever the case is, it looks freaking outstanding. If you can, you should actually post a
Unity,
screenshot.
in my opinion, is caught up to Unreal Engine on a lot of levels. Holy shit. Yeah, that looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, try to remember to post some screenshots for the viewers so they can see what I'm talking about.
I'll link them to the... Well, I'll put it here on the video, but I'll link to the page too. This looks really nice.
And see, you never heard of it, right? So it's like...
No, I wish it was in physical form, because I'd buy that in a heartbeat.
Now, the thing is if Nintendo chooses to put its focus onto those smaller teams, those indie developers and stuff like that, and promote the hell out of them as if they're big AAA releases, even though they aren't really necessarily that would take the focus off the fact that things like Assassin's Creed and whatever else aren't quite on par with the other consoles.
Yeah. See, I don't know. It just depends. I mean, it does have a teraflop of performance.
Mm-hmm.
And the graphics chip has the technologies that really, that's what matters.
Yeah.
It has modern tech. It just, obviously it's not as efficient as what would be in like the newer GeForce chips.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily matter. And because it is custom, if you look at the leaks and whatever of the specs, it says second gen Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that right there could mean, I don't know this, I didn't look it up or anything, but it could mean that maybe that part right there is what has been edited. I don't know if the original X1 was a first-gen Maxwell.
Well, the Maxwell Gen 2 is the kind of chip that would have been in the GeForce 980 Ti. The TI version.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, and that's only one generation behind where we're at currently with video cards.
God,
so
this yeah, I might have to break my rule here.
See what I mean? It looks outstanding. It's hard too. It's not a super easy game.
Now, when did you? I take it you bought it on Steam.
I got it on Good Old Games actually. So, yeah, it's quite something, and there's just a lot of games that don't get the recognition they deserve. Just open up my Steam. Yeah, it's Aquamoto Racing Utopia is the one that's like Wave Race. Then there's like Amnesia, which finally got its time in the limelight, I think, but because of its sequels and stuff. That's a outstanding horror game right there.
Okay. Well, currently Ghost of a Tale is $21.
Yeah.
That's not bad, and from what I'm looking at, it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, I paid like 15 on sale. Then there's like Citizens of Earth, which I know came to pretty much every console, but it's a very similar game to like Earthbound or something. I think it probably lacks some of the character, or else it'd be more popular. But there's that. Let me find some more obscure ones. There's all kinds. I'm just gonna say that there's all kinds of indie games that deserve attention. There's Evoland, which I reviewed on the site a while ago.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in that game. It'd be nice if that was ported to the Switch.
Yeah, and its
or
sequel,
any of the consoles, actually.
And its sequel would be nice too. There's a game Sega actually put out a while ago called Hell Yeah, Wrath of the Dead Rabbit. And then they had Tembo the Badass Elephant, which I have not played that one, but Hell Yeah was really, really good. It's kind of a Metroidvania kind of game, and it was really, really well made. And so many damn games to scroll through. Oh, Momodora. I don't know if you've heard of that. But
nope.
That's very much a Castlevania style side scroller. Has Japanese style characters and stuff, but boy, look that one up. That's a nice looking game there too. Obviously not the 3D fest that the others are. But then there's like Odalis, which is another Castlevania style game. It doesn't look so good, but it definitely fills that void that's left by Castlevania. There's just all kinds of that crap. Like I'm not even gonna go through
I'm wondering about Castlevania.
Yeah.
With Konami being as retarded as they have been, but now all of a sudden, since simply my guess is because they own the IP, they got Bomberman R, right? That's what's called.
Super Bomberman R, yeah.
Now that to me looks fun.
It does.
I like those games from the past. My wife actually, she really likes the original one because she had a Famicom as a kid, and they played Bomberman all the time. And I guess her mom used to play too, which to me is surprising. But so I'm wondering, okay, so if Bomberman sells quite well, that might intrigue them to maybe start remaking games again. Instead of these pachinko machines.
I don't think so.
Well, you never know. I'm just hoping, and it'd be nice to get another Castlevania game that actually is good. You know, or maybe just like remaster some of the older ones.
So
like the ones on PS2 were good.
So I did pre-order that game along with 1-2 Switch and Zelda. So I'm buying it, but I will say that as far as I can tell, it shouldn't be more than $20, and it's $50. Doesn't seem like it has the content there, but it has the one feature that I want more than anything out of a Bomberman game. That's the 8-player multiplayer.
Yeah.
Now, previously, as far as I know, the only console to have this was the Saturn. Yeah, Saturn Bomberman.
Would they have like multi-taps or something?
You could use 2 multi-taps and play 8 players.
Damn.
And apparently, based on everything I've ever heard or read about it, that was the absolute best Bomberman game out there. And, you know, I never bothered to play any of them, but when I read about that, it's like, man, that sounds really cool. And now it's like, I can totally do that. If not in person, I can do it online.
I bought for my wife. It was the Bomberman that recently became compatible on the Xbox One. I mean, it's for the 360, but
Is that okay?
well, I played it, and it actually I think is pretty good.
Huh. Does it have like the
But
realistic Bomberman?
kind of.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not Bomberman
it,
Zero, right?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll have to look at it,
All
but
right.
um, I bought it for her, and then she looked at it and she's like, "No, that's not it. I need the original."
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I don't know. I don't put much faith in Konami. Honestly, I had second guessed whether or not to even do a pre-order for that game just because it was Konami, and I don't agree with much of anything that they do. So anyway, I think we
Yeah.
moved off topic quite a bit. So I just wanted to make one last point, then we're done with Switch. Okay, I think Nintendo is going this route because of sales. Because when you look up the sales for the last year, probably the years before that, mobile games, and weirdly enough, they group that with PC games. Both of those, PC and mobile, are far outselling consoles in terms of revenue. And I think from a business perspective, Nintendo looks at that, they see those numbers, and they're like, well, we need to make a mobile device that will get a part of that. And I think that the Switch is good in that respect. Is it the right move?
I think it depends.
We'll see.
A lot of the mobile games that they're referring to are those free-to-play ones where you gotta,
Pay
your
$1 to get some more coins.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And my wife plays Candy Crush, and there's some Angry Birds puzzle game that's came out recently, and it's free to play.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll play one, and then when she runs out of lives or whatever, she'll quit that and then move to the next game and play that until she runs out of lives, and then she'll go back to the other one. And so she's kind of like going back and forth, but she didn't pay a dime.
And that's the thing.
There's no ads or nothing, so I don't know how the hell they're making any money.
That's the thing. I don't know. It's
And
a
I
big
don't want
question
those
mark.
games on the Switch. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll probably end up on there because of being kind of a tablet kind of thing.
I think to an extent they will, but Nintendo's been pretty firm on its own stance regarding the whole free-to-play model that's been popular. Like, they haven't done it themselves at all. Like, take Miitomo, their first mobile app. Like, there were microtransactions, but it was nothing that, it's kind of a weird game, if you want to call it that. But, like, all the microtransactions were very much just, like, optional. They were just part of the experience. They weren't necessarily something you had to do. And they're kind of continuing that trend. I mean, you could count Pokemon Go. I mean, Nintendo technically published it, but, like, you could spend money in that, or you could just not, and you'd still have plenty of fun with it. Fire Emblem.
And then you got,
Fire Emblem Heroes just came out, and it's like, yeah, there's microtransactions there, but you absolutely don't have to do it, and you can still play just fine.
now Super Mario Run, of course, it's not selling like they wanted.
But that's
because the $10 paywall, you're
See?
charging too much in the wrong market.
Yeah, in the wrong market. That's the thing. Now when that thing hits Android, I'll pay $10. Hell yeah. Never have to think about paying for anything again in that. That's great. They did it in the wrong market, absolutely. For a crowd that would prefer to pay $1.50.
I'm including Android in that market too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just saying
you're
the cell
right,
phone
yeah.
market overall.
Yeah.
Now, I'm kind of hoping that they release that game on the Switch too.
Well, I say I would spend $10 when it comes to
Yeah.
Android because I prefer to pay up front once.
Oh, me too,
But
but not
the
$10.
even $10, I'd pay $10 for a game. I paid like 8 when Rayman Jungle Run first came out on the mobile devices. I paid like $8 just to have it not have ads or any interruptions. I just want to play level to level, and it was that good. It was worth $8. And now with this, like, same deal. But there's a lot of people who would much rather pay $1 for each level that they get to than to pay $10 up front. So they could spend $80 playing through 80 levels, but to them that's somehow better than paying $10 for all 80 levels at once. And I think that's because it's an impulse thing. They don't think about the math. They don't think about the fact that it costs more in the long run that way. They just think that they can pay until they want to stop playing and then they can stop. So if they get to level 30 and they're like, I don't really want to play this no more, they only paid $30 for it. Only. It's like you could have just paid 10, stopped at level 30. Right. And you could have still stopped at level 30 and been just fine. But I don't know, that crowd, that market it's a weird one.
Yeah.
Super weird. So anyway, I can see why Nintendo would be looking at this. In that sense, if it'll work out like that, we'll see. I still think.
Plus, if you think about it too, the Switch, I'm guessing, will have your console-style games and your mobile-style games.
Right.
But that's going to bring those people who are into the mobile games into the living room because all of a sudden now they can play it on their TV. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting time.
Right. And that actually plays into what they have said before about their mobile game stance, where they want to make mobile games that encourage people to play their home consoles and their dedicated portables. So, maybe that's going to happen. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see on this. There's not really much else to say. I think that's what Nintendo's going for. It's pretty obvious, but
yeah, well,
time will tell.
I think we'll cut that, and happy gaming to everybody out there.
Right.